presented to me, and I found among their good deeds that stood out to me, was their removing harmful things from the road. While I found among their bad deeds that stood out to me was phlegm or spittle in the mosque, which went unburied or unremoved. So the Prophet, he starts out the hadith and he says, عُرِضَتْ عَلَيَّ أَعْمَالَ أُمَّتِي حَسَنُهَا وَسَيِّئُهَا. Says the deeds of my community, both good and bad, were presented to me. Presented to him by who? Presented to him by who? Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he showed him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the good deeds and the bad deeds of his ummah, so that he could encourage them to do those good things that they were doing, and he could discourage them from doing the bad thing. Like, these are the things that your ummah is going to do, good and bad. The good things, he would tell them, hey, do this, do more of this, encourage them. And the bad things, he would tell them, hey, don't do this, because some people do bad things inadvertently, right? They do it unawares, that they're doing the wrong thing. And so he could discourage them from doing those things and earning sin. Then he mentions, he says, فَوَجَدْتُ فِي مَحَاسِنِ أَعْمَالِهَا. He said, I found among their good deeds that stood out to me. Stood out to him, why? Because they were things that you wouldn't expect, inconspicuous, insignificant. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told the Prophet, I'm going to show you their good deeds, there's some things that naturally occurred to him. Is that not so? Like, for example, salat. See what I'm saying? Before even being shown their good deeds, one of the things that was naturally going to occur to him is what? A salat, one of the most virtuous deeds, and the first thing a person will be asked about. Is that not so? Y'all see that? So there's some things going to occur to him. Giving charity, right? Certain things are just going to what? Jump out at you. But he said there were certain things that I didn't what? I didn't expect. But wajadtu, and he's telling them this because why? If I didn't expect it to be a big deal with Allah, you probably what? You probably don't expect it either. So I need to highlight this so you know this is what? This is a good deed. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he says in the Quran, he says, وَتَحْسَبُونَهُ هَيِّنًا وَهُوَ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ عَظِيمٌ. You think some things are small, they're minor, but to Allah they're what? They're a big deal. Y'all see that? Then he mentions, he says, I found among those good deeds that stood out to me was they're removing harmful things from the road. Harmful things is what? It's a broad term. Includes like rocks, and sticks, thorns, and glass, and other sharp objects, and garbage which disturbs people with its what? Smell. With its smell and with its what? Its appearance. When you see it, it disturbs you. The look of it. Let alone what? The smell of it. Y'all see that? So anything that annoys people, vexes people, disturbs people, what? Removing it from the road is what? It's a good deed. Now typically, when people see garbage in the road, are they thinking about removing it? No, they're thinking about what? Getting on through, getting away from it. Y'all see that? Exactly. And the Prophet is saying one of the good things a person can do and earn a lot of reward from Allah and be appreciated by Allah is what? Is when you see something, do something. You see what I'm saying? Remove it. Get rid of it. Y'all see that? طيب. Then he said, while I found among their bad deeds that stood out to me. Again, something, when you think about the bad deeds, there's certain things that are going to what? Immediately jump out to you. Murder, adultery and fornication, right? Theft. But the Prophet, as he look at as these bad deeds are being presented to him, he sees something that, man, people do this all the time and they probably don't even realize it. What? It's a bad deed. Right? Something that people think is what? Insignificant. They don't associate it with sin, but it is what? It is a sin. And he mentioned what? An-nukha'a. He mentioned what? Phlegm or spittle that's found in the mosque, and it goes what? Unburied or unremoved. Unburied or unremoved. And people don't consider that A sin. Basically, it's an example that the Prophet is given of what? Of making a mess in the masjid. Making a mess in the masjid. Something that people don't associate, even nowadays, don't associate with sin. And the masajid now are much different than the masajid time of the Prophet. Time of the Prophet, what? It was 4 walls and what? And pebbles. It was 4 walls and pebbles. But now, you guys have gone around, you've been around. Man, you got masajid where they got special tiles with the name of Allah and the Prophet Muhammad engraved what? In the tiles. I said, they got carpets that cost, thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars. They got chandeliers hanging from, the ceiling that cost, again, tens of thousands of dollars. And people will do what? Will make a mess. And won't think what? Won't think twice about it. Won't think of it as a sin, what they're doing. They go into the bathroom. It's the bathroom, azakumullah. But it's the bathroom in what? In the house of Allah. And they make a mess. They make, an awful mess. And they leave it like that. They just leave it like that. And it never crossed their mind that what they're doing is what? Is sinful. Because somebody's got to come after them and find what? What they left. Y'all see what I'm saying? And I'm asking you honestly, if you come to the bathroom and you really, really got to go and you open that stall and you find what somebody left, man, you're like, oh, you know what I mean? Doesn't that hurt you? It does. Doesn't it disturb you? People do that. Y'all see that? And it never crosses their mind that that's what? That's a sin. Even though the Prophet, amara bil masajid, and tunadhaf wa tutayyab. The Prophet commanded that the masajid be always kept clean, spotless, and be what? And be fragranced. Be incensed. People bring incense and make the masjid smell what? Smell good. And he said, al-busaq fil masjid khati'ah. He said, spitting in the masjid is what? Is a sin. He said it himself. And people what? It never crossed their mind as what? It's a sin. They're just totally oblivious that it's a sin. But let's look at some lessons out of Ujalla. So one thing is that Allah takes account of what? Of everything. Allah takes account of everything. And so we need to be mindful of everything. Everything that we do. We should never think it's come on, it's not a big deal. And you hear people actually say that. They articulate that. Say, come on, man, this small thing. Why are you making a big deal out of this? It's a small thing. It's a minor thing. It's not the language that Muslims should use. Somebody says, hey, man, you shouldn't do this. Even if it occurs to yourself, you say yourself, as you're processing, in the grand scheme of things, this is a small thing. I'm sorry, small sin. You still shouldn't what? You shouldn't articulate that. Because it might be small to me. It might be small in the grand scheme of things. But at this time, under these circumstances, in this place, in this season, on this occasion, it could be what? It could be a big deal to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Y'all see that? And how many times have we read where something small tipped the scales for a person? Right? We know the famous hadith where the man was walking, he was thirsty, and he found a well, and he drank water like people would normally do, and he came out of the well, and he found what? A dog. Dogs are not really highly regarded in Islam. They're not really highly regarded in Islam, right? And there's lots of the hadith where you can't keep dogs, right? You have to keep them outside. If you keep them at all, not really supposed to keep them, right? So dogs are not highly regarded in Islam, but the Prophet in the hadith mentioned that a dog was licking moist earth near a well out of thirst. And a man felt sorry for him, felt pity, felt empathy for that dog. It's like, that dog is feeling just the way I felt. He's a creature of Allah, right? He shouldn't suffer. And if I can do something to help him, I should do something. So he went down the well and he put himself to some trouble. Went down the well, removed his leather shoe, went down the well, put the shoe in his mouth, went down to the well, filled the shoe up with water, hanging on one arm, as he filled the shoe up with what? With water. Then what? Put the shoe in his mouth, climbed out of the well, put himself to some trouble, and did what? And gave drink to the water. Allah appreciated what he did and forgave all of his what? All of his sins. You think to yourself, come on, that's a small thing. It was a big deal inside of who? Allah. Allah takes account of what? Of everything. He It also, this hadith rings true to the title of the chapter. There are many ways to do good, and some of them are often overlooked and belittled by many Muslims. Even though the Prophet said, "La tahqiranna min al-ma'rufi shay'an." Do not belittle a single good deed. Right? People out here asking for charity, and you could have swore you had a 20 in your pocket. You reach in your pocket, and there's some pennies, a couple of nickels, right? A brown-looking quarter, and some lint. Right? And you say, "Come on, man, I'm embarrassed to give this." You see what I'm saying? The Prophet says, don't belittle what? Any good deed. Throw that what? Throw that pocket change in there with the what? With the right intention. And you might be surprised. You might get some more reward than the guy who comes after you and puts what? Puts down 100. Y'all see that? Don't belittle any good deed. Then, we also see that it's a good deed to remove anything harmful, physically or visually, from a path people travel or a place where they what? Where they gather. While it is a sin to put trash or harmful things in those places. And here I want to say, if you look at the hadith, the Prophet said, "An-nukha'a takunu fil masjid la tudfan." He said, one of the sins I saw from my ummah is this phlegm or this spittle that you find in the masjid, and it goes unburied or unremoved. What's significant about the way the Prophet worded it? La tudfan. In Arabic, we call that mabni lil majhul. We call it the passive tense in English. What's significance about using the passive tense? What do y'all think? He said, "An-nakha'a," phlegm in the masjid that goes unremoved. Instead of saying a man spitting in the masjid and not removing it. Do you see the difference between the two, or do you see a difference, or are they the same? So the Prophet could have said, right? He could have said the spit that, okay, a man spitting in the masjid and not removing it. But instead he said spittle or phlegm that's in the masjid and goes unremoved. What do you guys see the difference is?
It's not pointing direct.
Say it, Musa. Say it.
It's not pointing direct.
Say it with your chest. I can't hear you.
Directly with a person.
Yes. Say it.
You're not pointing directly at a person.
Meaning what? Ahsant Musa. He didn't say that man who spit removing his spit. Spittle, phlegm, going unremoved, meaning if you see it,
remove it.
Remove it. Don't say, "Well, I didn't do that." Y'all see that? The Prophet is saying, look, if you see a mess, don't say, "I didn't put that there, so I shouldn't have to remove it." Don't say somebody else will do it. We don't do that in Islam, but we do it all the time. Y'all see that? Somebody will get that. Somebody will get that. No, if I went, for example, I went out here, let's say, for example, we had these trash cans around the masjid. And I don't know if we really should do that or not. I understand why we do it, but I don't know if it's probably the best thing to do, but we do it. I understand the reason why we do it, whatever. But let's say one of these sisters who like kind of sees the mess and sees one of the trash cans overflowing. The sad thing about us too, as men, is that I hope at home we take the trash out. I hope we're not having our women dragging bags out to the curb. I hope we're not doing that at home. Inshallah, we're not doing that at home. The sad thing is that here we are in the masjid, and you got a trash can, right? You got a trash can, and it's so full that what? That you can't even put the top down. You know what I mean? The top won't go down because of so much what? Trash. And what happens a lot of times in our setting, unfortunately, is that one of these sisters will get annoyed by that. And see that none of these brothers are going to take care of it. So what will they do? They'll what? They'll go ahead and tie that bag, push that trash down, tie that bag up, and then they'll do what? They'll pick up the bag and put it by the front door. And that's a message. Like, one of y'all need to get this. And what happens a lot of times, we'll do what? We'll walk right past it. Man, who put this here? Step over it, right? The Prophet is teaching us we can't get on like that. We'll see, for example, somebody took a candy wrapper or something like that. They opened some candy. One of the kids did it. Opened a lollipop, took the wrapper and just dropped it on the floor. We'll walk down and we'll see it and we'll step over it. Y'all see that? No, the Prophet saying, no, you don't have to be the one who put the candy wrapper. You don't have to be the one who put the trash can there or trash bag there. If you see it, what?
Remove it.
Remove it. And if every Muslim did that, would the masjid ever be dirty?
Yeah.
It would never be dirty. If you saw a rug that needed to be vacuumed, and you know where the vacuums are, and you what? You grab the vacuum, zzz. You saw a shelf that needed to be dusted, and you went what? You dusted it.
I'm trying to figure out how you remove spit.
Huh?
How do you remove spit?
Well, if it was on the carpet, you'd have to probably take like some type of cleaning solution and a rag, and you'd have to what?
In them days, in the days
You know,
of dirt,
they bury it. They bury it.
Bury
They turn the earth over. That's why he said tudfan. Because you got to figure it was dirt and pebbles or sand and pebbles. They would do what? They would bury it. They would scoop up and then bury it. What I say all this to say is that the Prophet, the wording he uses is indicative of the fact that what? If you see it, remove it. Handle it. Even though somebody else put that there. Shame on them. Which is also when the Prophet says, I found from the good deeds of my ummah that they would remove something harmful. He's also telling us in a roundabout way, it's from what? It's from sin to put something harmful. And it's another thing too, we need to wake up to the realization or to the reality of when we come to the masjid and we leave mess, we eat something. They have something in the masjid and, you know, ahlan wa sahlan, whoever wants to have, they can have. So we eat it, we have a plate, we have a cup, and we just right out here in the lounge where it's a big sign that says what?
No food.
No food or drink. The only exception being what? During hospitality. That's the only exception we make, right? Somebody goes out there and eats and drinks anyway. We don't say anything generally, but the expectation is that you're going to what? No, because when people come into the masjid, especially guests, non-Muslim guests, when they come in the masjid, what's the first place they see? The foyer. That's the first thing they see. That should be the neatest place in the masjid. Right? Because it represents us. Is it? Is it the neatest place? Is it the most attractive place? No, it is not. It's disgusting. No offense to anybody. It's disgusting. The floor looks disgusting. And in many cases, what? The way we have the chairs and, you know, the way we put the shelves and the things we put on the shelves, oftentimes you come in and it looks like a mess. Y'all see that?
Shoes all over the floor.
Yeah.
All shoes all over the floor and this, that, and the other, right? I say all this to say that we can't contribute to that mess. We have to be the people who what? Who clean up and clean up after our what? After ourselves. If we're making a mess, we're actually doing sin. Y'all see that? But from lesson number 4, cleanliness in all forms is part of the Islamic personality. It's part of what a Muslim is supposed to exhibit all the time. Allah says, "Inna Allah yuhibbu at-tawwabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin." Allah loves those who repent often and those who keep themselves what? Clean, but not just keep their bodies clean and wear dirty clothes. Not keep their bodies clean and their house is dirty. No, everything connected to a Muslim should be what? Should be what? Spotless. Y'all see that? Cleanliness is something that what? It's something that it's part of our personality, part of who we are. You see what I'm saying? And that includes especially what? In the jewel of Islam, the gem of Islam, which is what? The masjid, the house of Allah, we call it. The house of Allah. Most of us don't feel comfortable with our house being dirty. Right? We come home from work and it's not right. It's like telling the kids, pick these toys up. What's wrong with y'all? Yeah, I mean, who's supposed to wash the dishes today? You know, we want the house to be clean. And when it's not clean, we get on people's case. How can we have our own homes clean and mess up the masjid? Y'all see that? Just to put a cherry on top, keeping the masjid clean or the masajid clean is the duty of every Muslim, and it's a big deal to Allah. It's a duty of every Muslim. It's not something that there's somebody who the masjid pays to clean. That's their problem. That's their job. No, it's all of our collective responsibilities. We need to see it like that. And unfortunately, some of us, we've been conditioned, especially when it comes to cleanliness, that that's somebody else's job. I lived in a country for some years that will remain nameless, where one of the things that I really struggled to, I guess, to accept or it was something that, I'm telling you, I was there for like 7 years and I never got comfortable with. I was never able to wrap my head around it. And that was the thing, we put trash everywhere. Yeah. The streets just full of trash, man. Streets full of trash, in front of their homes trashy, just trash everywhere. In the university, man. I was in the university, and the university is, they spend a lot of money. The flooring and the walls and it's very modern. It's a very modern and a structure that you can tell in every single detail. They put a lot of money and a lot of thought into it. And you'll walk down the hall, there's wrappers from some type of honey bun or some type of sandwich that people, they just throw it on the floor. And the sad thing, there's a trash can right there. Trash can right there, and they just throw it on the floor. Because they're accustomed to what? To having maids and servants and people who what? People who clean that up. Somebody come and get that. Somebody come and get that. And unfortunately, a lot of us are like that. We're like that. And so we come to the masjid and we what? We make a mess, we leave a cup, we leave a plate, we throw wrappers on the floor. We'll watch our kids do that. Right? Now, kids go in some, corners and crevices of the masjid. We're not aware of what they're doing, and they might make a mess that we're unaware of. But sometimes we're watching them make a mess. And we don't clean up. We don't clean up after them. We're expecting what? The masjid has somebody who does that? No, it's the responsibility of all what? All Muslims. And if every Muslim did their part, the masjid would always be what? Would always be spotless. So with that, brothers and sisters, we bring today's remarks to a close, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as always, to make us from those who listen to the talk, to follow the best of it. Don't run away. We have some tea and crumpets. I think Dr. Ali is out there working right now to get things together for us, inshallah ta'ala. So let's spend a few minutes together and have a little something. And
when you was in this place, you didn't make it to class,
huh?
You didn't make it to class on time?
No, I would be there. I would be there on time.
Oh, I thought you would be busy picking up all that.
He walked through the hallways mumbling.
Who did?
I was just thinking, like what you mentioned, the title that the name of Allah, was engraved. Isn't that too much?
They shouldn't do that. The Prophet did not. First of all, he discouraged zakhrafat al-masajid. He discouraged, over beautifying and embellishing the masajid. He wanted the masajid to be a place where the worship of Allah is what illuminates it, what beautifies it. And he didn't want the masjid to be so full of distractions that people can't concentrate on the worship of Allah, right? He also didn't want to become like these churches and synagogues, that the Muslims are supposed to be distinctly different and uniquely different. The way that they operate, the way that they move is different from the way the non-Muslims, Jews and Christians and other, people, how they operate. You see how they overdo the adornment of their places of worship. The Muslims are different. We're very simple, right? We want the structure to be a good, solid structure. We want it to be spacious enough and expansive enough for people to worship. We want to have facilities that make the masjid functional. But beyond that, we don't spend a lot of time. And one of the things that all of the madhab agree on is that the name of Allah, Allah's names and His attributes, and the Quran should not be on the walls of any place, including the masajid. And so we shouldn't put the name of Allah on the wall. And notice and think about it, if it was a good thing to do that, who would have been the first person to do that? Rasulullah. He would have wrote Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Allah, Muhammad. He would have wrote those things on what? On the wall of his masjid. If it was something good. He didn't do it. Even after that, the Khulafa, they didn't do it. Right? In the early period of Islam, it was unheard of for anyone to write anything on the wall of a what? Of a mosque. Like these early Muslims, did they get it wrong and we get it right? You see what I'm saying? No. They're the standard. They're the gold standard. And so if we really, really want to know, what we should be doing, what we shouldn't be doing, especially when it comes to what? The masajid. We need to look at that. We need to look at how they conducted their business. And they did not do that. They did not do that. And we shouldn't be doing it either. Now, so I just mentioned that as an example just to say the extent they go to make the masjid a beautiful place and then people are making it a mess. But I was not in any way, shape, or form condoning that. No, we don't condone it. Any other questions? Going once, going twice, gone. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Yeah, go ahead and turn that off.